Hello, today we will be working with Magic Poser, which is a piece of software that I use for essentially the equivalent to an artist's posing doll. We're going to start with the man who we start with, and we also start with a light source up here. The man is our basic posing doll. He has 12 sphere joints, 4 tetrahedron joints, and 3 cube joints. The sphere joints are 3 in each of his limbs, and if you move one, it moves the other 2 to make sense of the position of the one that you just moved, allowing you to essentially move them roughly as you want to. They do not obey the laws of physics, let alone biology. You can absolutely do something like this if you want to, just saying. The tetrahedron joints literally just allow you to rotate the arm or leg to which they are attached. You will be able to find out which direction you need to grab to turn them. It depends on where you start grabbing them from and a few other things, but generally if you make the rotating motion you're after, it will usually do what you want it to. It's not perfect, unfortunately. These 3 are the cube joints, and each one of them behaves differently because that's really helpful. The first one allows you to bend your person over without their back bending. The second one allows you to bend the person over by bending their back, so it's bending their spine rather than bending at the hip. The one down here moves everything except for the leg, so it will try to keep the legs, or at least the ankles down here, in the same position, basically meaning that you can force the person into a kneeling position or make them stand back up again. If you pull it upwards, then it will bring the legs along with you because it has no choice, but otherwise it will try to keep the ankles in the same position, and you can put the person in a kneeling position. You can also just grab the person and move them about like this. The next thing you can do is you can grab one of these joints, hit rotate, and then you can rotate it manually however you like. There is some lip service to how a human body can actually move, meaning that it will limit you so that you can't have someone's elbow twisted backwards, but otherwise you can move it to your heart's content. If you don't want to mess around with all of these, there are some preset poses, so you can just click the preset button up here, grab whatever pose you want, and then lo and behold, this person is in a kneeling position without you having to do anything to put them in one. You can then proceed to change things about the preset if you want to. Hands are another matter, but they work roughly the same way. You click the hand thing up here, it gives you a set of preset poses, so you can pick one of them and the left hand will jump into that pose. If you want to choose a pose for the right hand, all you have to do is click where it says left and it will say right instead, so you can now choose a different pose for the right hand. The other way of doing it is you can grab these joints and it will automatically go into rotate mode. Unfortunately, there is no way of affecting these middle joints in the fingers, only the ones at the base of the finger, so you have to deal with that slight problem. There is one more problem, and that is that once you've gone into the hands mode, it won't let you grab the larger joints. What you have to do is go into lock mode and then leave lock mode. The intention of lock mode is that you go into it and then you can't accidentally do something to him while you're trying to do something to someone else, but it's also useful for resolving that slight technical difficulty there. You can also add more people using the add menu here, so you can just grab another man and put him here. You can also remove people, or if you realise that you've got a man and actually you wanted to have a female character, you can click replace and then you can hit the woman button and it will change it to a woman, or you can change it back into a man, or you can turn it into a strangely disproportionate anime girl or an anime boy or whatever strikes your fancy. And you can also click duplicate to make a second copy, and then you can change that and it won't affect the first one. We'll get rid of him for a moment. The next thing you can do is you can use the transform button to move your person on a particular axis if you want to do that, or you can make them bigger or smaller, like so. One thing to note is that as well as characters, you can put in geometry, and they have a special feature where you can actually change the scale on a particular axis rather than making them bigger or smaller in general, whereas with a person you can't actually do that. You can just make them bigger or smaller. With an object you have slightly more freedom than with a person. Next up is the hair menu. Will give you a selection of different hairstyles, so you can just choose one of them, and then you can change the colour of the person's body by going to the colour menu and clicking one of these. If you want to change their hair, just like with the right hand, you click the body thing up here, it goes to hair, and then you can set their hair colour, either using one of the preset colours again, or you can change the colour to whatever you like using this slider. Or if you know the hex code you want to use, you can do that, or you can do RGB or HSL. But for the most part, you'll probably be using the colour spectrum up here, or one of these lovely features up here. One thing to note is if you change the hairstyle to a different one, then it will get rid of the coloration. Another thing to point out is this bandana and these little hairbands here. If you change the colour of the hair, it changes the colour of the bandana too, and there's no way around that, unfortunately, so just something to be aware of. But if you want to avoid that problem, you can just have a hairstyle without them. Yeah, remember to go into the hair menu if you want to change the colour of the hair. Next up, we have the view menu. It does a few things. One, it allows us to put the person in the centre of the screen. Two, it allows us to view from, say, the top of the person, and then you can click and drag like that to get a new view. Another thing is it allows us to change the amount of perspective, or what I would call foreshortening, so you can essentially make it more or less 3D-ish. I think that if you do too much, it looks a bit artificial, and if you do too little, it looks a bit too two-dimensional, so I would just keep it as it is, but that's really your choice. Next thing to do is to grab this light source and have a play with it. You'll notice that if you move the light source around, it doesn't actually change the lighting at all. There are two things you can do. One is you can rotate it, so it will change the direction of the light source. It'll have it come from underneath if you want a spooky glow on your character. I personally prefer to have it a slight angle and poking slightly downwards, but not too much, because I think that makes the best lighting, but you can change that if you want. The other thing is, while you have this selected, you can grab the brightness, and you can change the brightness, so you can make it very dark and gloomy, or you can make it very, very blindingly bright. I wouldn't change that, but if you want it to be a little dark and mysterious, or a little bright and sunny, you can change it a bit. The GI strength is another thing you can do. Essentially, it changes the contrast. I, again, don't like changing that too much, but you can do if you feel that you want to do that. When you are pretty sure you're done with everything, you can just slam on the preview button and check that everything is as you want it. There's a few more options that you can take, by the way, which is you can remove the ground guidelines, so the little grid down here, and you can add it back. You can take the sky away or put it back, and you can remove or re-add people's clothes. You can also change the language if you want to do that. Once you're done, I would have a hit of the print screen button, or if you're a Mac user, then I would Shift Command 4 is the print screen equivalent there. And then once you've got that, you can go into whatever your favoured drawing program is and just paste this in here. It's a little different on Mac because you have to actually drag the picture in from the desktop, but with print screen it will just put it straight to the clipboard and you can have it in. Get it up to the size you want, and then you have, ignore that line, it's just comes from the program I'm using to film this, and then you have the picture of the person, and if you lock that layer and drag it to the back, you now have this as a reference layer, and then you can go onto this layer and you can start drawing using the reference layer as just a guideline for where you want to draw. So if I quickly go around this person's hairline, there you go, and you can see that I've got a relatively convincing hairline with basically no effort, apart from all the posing that I did. And then, of course, you can start doing the same work on his face, on his eyes. The anime versions of the characters actually do have eyes that you can trace around as well, rather than just having these sort of closed eyelids down here. But yeah, you can essentially use that to copy as much as you like. I might smash cut a finished version of this on the end of the video, and that's how you use Magic Poser. To make a reference picture, and then you can either use your drawing software like this, or you can just look at it and use it as a reference to draw from if you want. So that's about it. So thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. And here's the finished product. As you can see, it's not very different from the thing we made in Magic Poser. Normally you would want to add additional clothes or shoes or something else to make the picture more complete, but this is just an example. Made it in about 20 minutes, so it's far from perfect. I don't even know what's going on with this hand down here, but it's just a quick sketch to show you what is possible using the reference layer as a guide. You can get the shading roughly right, because you can just take a peek and go, okay, so it's that color, and then add it on. So yeah, here's just a quick example to show you what you can do fairly quickly with the Poser image.